If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
It was one of 50 films being made by Warner Brothers at that time. It was just another movie, and no one thought it was anything special.
I'll say this for our loyal listeners and viewers, bluffers, if you will. They keep you guessing. And when we posted a poll, a little while back about what kind of genre they want us to take a little dive into over these next couple months, I was expecting teen sex comedies or sexual thrillers. That's what I assume about you people. And they said classic cinema. Casablanca.
Here we are.
1942. Director Michael Curtis.
I remember it fondly.
Huh? Yeah, it was a hell of a year.
I remember. Yeah.
Humphrey, Bogart, Ingrid, Bergman. Considered by many to be one of, if not the best film of all time. I'm interested in discussing this film with you because, had you seen it before? I don't know, I didn't think so. I was being polite. I knew he didn't say it. I was giving him a shot to lie. I was giving him the opportunity to lie. I had seen Casablanca just once before this watch, and actually somewhat recently. It was one of those ones I had on the back burner forever, knowing that I would need to watch it. But like I think we discussed on an earlier, older film that we talked about, that weird sense of really any movie before 1980 where it's going to feel a little like homework. It's going to feel a little like a chore. But then there's a lot of obviously excellent films that are still very outstanding and entertaining today, made in earlier years. So Casablanca, Keith, I'll tell you what I think about it, but first, I want to know what you think about it. No, I'll go first.
I'm not going to talk this episode. Enjoy.
I think...
What'd you think about this movie?
I think the movie is fantastic. I think, believe the hype. Believe the hype, Casablanca is pretty good. It's a pretty good movie. I think it is a rare film from that time. This is 42, so this is almost the 1930s, which I don't know if you guys know this, is quite a long time ago, and pretty early in the history of the film and Hollywood and all that stuff. So you might not expect to have a ton of films from that time period that could still be very genuinely entertaining today. Like they could still be good, you know what I mean? Like you give the benefit of the doubt, you go, oh yeah, and I'm sure it's still good, and I watched it, and I liked it. I get it. But this movie, I think, is one of those that is still genuinely good and enjoyable, even looking at it through today's lens, almost 100 years later. I think it is. It's one of those examples. It supports the argument of if something's good, it's good. Like it's good forever. It's good regardless of the variables and the circumstances that shift around it, including the passage of time. We can talk about the specifics of what is so good, but I understand and agree with the notion that this is one of the best films of all time. That's I'll go there. I don't know where it is, but it's top 5, top 10, top 20 easily in my best list.
Yeah, the movies that you think, not that you like.
Not my personal favorites.
Best.
A more objective list. This would be on there.
Yeah. Interesting. Thank you for asking. I was
ready to end the episode. I've made my points. Have a good night.
I made my point, and good night, ladies and gentlemen. I was shocked how invested in this movie I was. I was literally shocked. Much like you said, a little bit of a homework assignment. I was not looking forward to watching it. I kind of just wanted to see what the hype was about, because obviously I'm aware of the film. I'm aware of the famous scenes in the film, famous lines of the film. Like, I like movies, so I'm aware of it. So I was just, let me just get through it. And from the beginning, I was in. I was shocked at it. I'm getting to the beginning of the third act, and I'm like this.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
I'm leaning. I'm physically, and then I caught myself. I was like, I love this movie.
Yeah,
I legitimately really like this movie, and I'm just shocked that I felt the way that I felt. So I agree with literally everything you said, and I would love to talk about some detailed things that why I think it is so great. But it's fucking great. It's fucking great. I still can't believe that I think it's great, but it is. It's great.
Yeah. This is one of those old classic films that I would recommend to even like a casual movie watcher today that hasn't seen a lot of old classic films. Like, give this a shot, put your phone down, and sit and watch for an hour and 40 minutes and actually like give yourself the chance to be sucked in, and you will be, because it's really good. It's funny, and it's romantic, and it's like kind of riveting in some parts. It's intense. There's some drama, there's some suspense to it of what's going to happen next, how they get it. Like, it has a little bit of everything. It does. Yeah, and it's awesome because it almost all takes place in one location, which is a lot of fun. You know, it's like, I think we might have talked about this once, but like the best film that takes place at primarily one location of all time, I'd say easily, where it's just like, oh, you're just basically at that club. There's a few little departures here and there, but basically you're at that club.
This movie is the perfect blueprint or outline or example of that, like, not every movie needs spectacle. The importance of good filmmaking, I think, rests and lies within great storytelling. And if all the things service a great story and how you tell that story, it gives it a chance to be a great movie. But if you don't have that, it'll never be a good movie. It just no matter how good all that other shit is. The glitz, the glamour, the explosions, the funny, witty dialogue, like, just doesn't. If the story is not there, then you have nothing. And I feel like this film is a prime example of that. It's still a great film almost 100 years later, and it's not because of an explosion. It's not because of fucking sex scenes or like. It's just a really well done story, and like all the filmmaking elements are there to support it.
Yeah.
There's great writing, there's great cinematography, like there's just great things that support what is at the heart of this story. I just think it's a great example. I wish we could go back to the like, I really do. It made me angry.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Like, I had this weird thought after, for whatever reason, where I was like, man, like, imagine if they made a Mission Impossible film today like this, where there's like. And who knows? Maybe they'll have to, because he's getting older. He's not going to be able to keep jumping off of fucking cliffs and stuff. But like one where Ethan Hunt has like retired and gone into hiding and runs a club somewhere in a mask or in a disguise. And there's just this night that comes into question where there's secret agents and double agents and people coming in and out, and we're trying to smuggle people through, and just like, and it's all like the tension is all from the character dynamics and the things that the audience knows that other characters don't know, and all that, the chess-like maneuvering of everyone. And yeah, it's occasionally punctuated by someone getting shot. I mean, there's 3 or 4 people that get shot in this movie, and it's like, so there is that little bit of action. There are consequences. Like, people die in this world. It's not all just butterflies and gumdrops. And I just thought, like, how amazing would that be? Like, it'd just be incredible to, and they, you know. So that's just another parting shot at Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning for all the furious fans out there. But I just like, you know what I think a lot about too is Inglourious Bastards. That has some scenes in it that are just like, that end in violence and horrific violence. But for 20 minutes, you're just like waiting for them to let the air out, because they're just building it, and like that stuff.
It's just building, yeah.
So yeah, modern movies could take some notes from this kind of thing, because like we've said, like, this movie is just as enjoyable to watch now, in spite of like the lesser aspects of it, which have to do with effects. Like, the effects are not very good in 1942, and so when they have to get cute and go to locations, the car in the background, you know, all that stuff, like, not great. But it's easy to get past that. I'll take excellent writing, excellent cinematography, excellent performances, excellent story over the inverse of excellent effects and nothing else.
Like, and nothing else.
Every time.
Yeah. Because that's what we're here for. Like, anyway, I'll just repeat myself over and over and over again. But I just feel like this film is a great example of great films, like great filmmaking, and like why can't we still do some? Why is this on nobody's radar? Not just this film, but like this effort, this attention to detail, like this style. Like why does this not exist anymore?
Well, it does with some directors, and then it does in some independent productions. But yes, as like a general like big Hollywood epic, no. Like this is not. This would be the exception to the rule in a big way. My favorite thing about the film, I think, is the writing. I think the screenplay is phenomenal.
The dialogue in Casablanca is, I mean, there's never been another movie with dialogue like that, has there?
I think this movie, obviously, for those of you who haven't watched it, you'll be shocked by how many quotations there are that have infiltrated the everyday lexicon.
Almost everything coming out of anybody's mouth is a classic.
Here's looking at you, kid.
He's looking at you, kid.
You know, Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Louis, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
And basically everything he says at the end of it.
At the end.
When he's talking
a
to...
whole hill of beans.
Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of three little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world.
Yeah, the hill of beans and of all the gin joints.
Of all the gin joints in all the towns in all the world, she walks into mine.
And, all that stuff, like just everything anyone says is
It's a handful.
major. And then I think, but beyond those, there is some of the best. Oh my God, I'm getting my phone because I wrote some of them down. Like just like one-off lines.
Yeah. There's too many to write. I started writing them down, and then I was like, oh, it's every line.
Yeah, like almost every line. Like the Frenchman, the investigator that is sort of his friend and sort of not. I think I can't remember his name right now. I'm drawing a total blank. He has so many great lines. I love just throughout it's an evidence of the time period, but it also is the eloquence of the writers, where it's these people are all playing a very dangerous game that has deathly consequences, and they all don't like each other very much, but they're all exceedingly nauseatingly polite to each other.
I know,
and
it's
I
so
love
chivalrous.
that shit.
I was informed you were the most beautiful woman ever to visit Casablanca. That was a gross understatement.
You're very kind.
Your reputation for eloquence has preceded you, and I must say they were correct. But I have to tell you...
Even Nazis can't kill that fast.
Oh, Laszlo, you have a reputation for eloquence, which I can now understand. But in one respect, you are mistaken.
They always add in a bunch of polite compliments at the beginning of, but I'm going to put you in jail, you piece of shit,
Yeah. It's just a product of the times. We have to be polite. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
How much I hate you, or you're a murderer, or whatever.
How do you do? This is a pleasure I have long looked forward to.
I'm sure you'll excuse me if I'm not gracious.
But we can't lose our manners.
The few that I wrote down were the Frenchman says.
I like to think that you killed a man. It's the romantic in me.
When he's reflecting on where Humphrey Bogart might have come from. He also says later, I'm only a poor corrupt official, which I thought was really funny. Another great line is,
It would take a miracle to get you out of Casablanca, and the Germans have outlawed miracles.
and I thought that was really great. And then maybe my favorite line was what kind of man is he?
What kind of a man is Captain Renault?
Oh, he's just like any other man, only more so.
No, I mean...
Like that. That is an incredible line. That is incredible writing. So the script throughout, it's like you gotta fan yourself off it's not just it to me it doesn't ever become shots fired at your favorite. Like Aaron Sorkin-y, where it's super noticeable that everyone's really delivering these clever lines. This feels much more organic, but they're all still delivering these really really nice, well-spoken lines. I really love it. I can't get enough of the script. It's
I think it's great too, but I disagree with just the last part. Not everyone would talk this way. I would feel like you would have an issue if this were any other movie. But I love it too, so I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying
it just flows more naturally. None of it feels forced. It's not on the nose. It's beautiful writing that is well said, and maybe more so than their characters would. But no one's ever just explaining it to explain it.
Yeah. I think the performances help with that. I think how they deliver these lines are a big part of what you're saying.
Yeah.
How it doesn't feel forced because they're not being forced. So I love the writing too. One of the funny a line I laughed out loud about was towards the end, where after they had ransacked his lounge or whatever, the Frenchman
Yes.
and Humphrey Bogart they meet again, and he says,
But I told my men to be especially destructive. You know how that impresses Germans?
I thought that was funny.
Yeah.
That they're impressed with that.
There's a lot of like really funny moments that like kind of surprise you as you're watching. Like a lot of the stuff with the bar staff, especially like that kind of chubby guy that it helps him out throughout. Like that guy has some really great little bits, and then obviously the French investigator or inspector. Like he has a lot of really funny lines,
fun.
like just like, oh, gambling in here, I can't believe it.
I'm shocked to find that gambling is going on in here.
You're winning, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Everybody out at once.
Yeah, that's another one I laughed out loud. The timing was really
just
spot on.
perfect, spot on.
Yeah. That was great.
So there really isn't a weak part in terms of performances for me. Like you understand why Bogart is held in such high regard, and Ingrid Bergman too. It's all really good. I really like her husband Laszlo, but like I guess he received a lot of the criticism for the movie. Like he played it too close to the vest, or was a little too straight-laced and didn't open up that character anymore.
That was it's interesting that you bring him up because he I know you're supposed to want the two of them to be together. Like that's the point.
Ingrid and Humphrey?
And Humphrey, yeah. But I was kind of Team Laszlo. Like there was a part of like he didn't do anything to make me not want them to be together. Like for Christ's sake, he went to a prison camp.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the big thing. Like she thought he was dead because he was being like tortured.
Yeah.
You know, like he's on the right side of history in this film. Like he's doing the right thing, fighting the good fight. He's the key to all this working. Like why would I not want them together? Like Humphrey Bogart's the other guy.
Yeah.
You know, like he's
he's
the cheater.
That's why it works out the way it does, and it's the right way to work out.
So it's all good. It's all good that it made me feel that way. It's all good that there's this gray area. So I'm not like criticizing it. I thought it was just, I don't know if it was by choice or maybe by performance that they didn't do enough to bring some separation from like a viewer standpoint, to be like, I kind of don't want that, you know, because he's not a bad guy. He has no flaws.
Yeah.
In that way.
Well, but I think that's kind of the point, because he is like the hero. Like the ideals that he is fighting for is why Humphrey Bogart, why Rick pushes her to get on the plane with him at the end and makes that choice, because the ideals that you guys are fighting for are way more important than just our trivial feelings of two little people down here on Earth. Like what you guys are doing matters. I don't matter. And that's one of the really cool, deeper themes of the film.
I mean, that's the best part.
Yeah.
Probably the best part of the film is that sacrifice. And it's so great. It's so great.
Yeah.
And it's like emotional.
Yeah. It's that whole final scene, which is obviously iconic. We're the first people to point out that that's a really powerful scene.
That's a really powerful scene.
I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Check out this movie Casablanca. The final sequence is pretty good. No, but it's really beautiful and it's really touching. And like we'll always have Paris.
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have. We lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
Like that shit is like make you tear up. Like it's really it's a very universally relatable thing of like we've all experienced loves over our lives, and you know, if you've had more than one, which a lot of people have, the rest of them don't end as well, you know. And so but there's like this moment of just like this we did this and this was great, and us reconnecting makes that beautiful again. That memory is now allowed to be beautiful again, but what you're doing is much more important than us continuing this fling. Like that's not important. Like go be smart. I love that. It's very pragmatic, but
but it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's even the way you describe it, I go like, yeah, that's beautiful. It's a beautiful, we'll always have this time.
Yeah.
You're right. Everyone had like, no one can take that from us. It exists forever.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
I thought it was funny on this time I watched it because I thought for like there's a moment before Ilsa explains why she did what she did, you know, with how he went to prison camp, I was told he was dead, and et cetera, where like she goes back for the second time she sneaks into his room or whatever, into Rick's room, and she's just like a hot mess, and she's just like, you're just like, oh, this broad does not, like, she's the problem. This is what I said out loud. I was like, she is the issue. Like, she is jerking these two guys around, going back and forth, whatever whim she feels that moment. Like, but I always said, I still love you. You know, it's like, Jesus. Like, you're the problem, lady. And then she pulls a gun out, and you're like, okay, this chick is nuts. Like, it's like, neither of these men should have gotten involved with this woman. She's the problem. But, you know, then she brings it back a little bit. But I thought that was kind of funny for half a minute. It was like, oh, this one's a little nuts. And then when, like, they're having one of their final confrontations in his room, and she does something where she's like, oh. Like, she just does one of those really, like, exaggerated of its time, like, female reactions in a film. Like, like, it's very funny. It's like, oh, y'all both got to leave this lady behind. Maybe Rick and Laszlo should have taken the 2 passes and got on the plane and left Ilsa back in Casablanca to fend for herself. Harlot.
You said I was to do the thinking for both of us. Well, I've done a lot of it since then. It all adds up to one thing. You're getting on that plane with Victor where you belong.
But Richard, no one.
Now, you've got to listen to me.
Okay, I'm going to take this jacket off because I'm sweating. Pop the molly. Woo.
Pop the molly, I'm sweating. Pop the molly, I'm sweating.
There was 2 things I didn't understand at the very final part of the film. I really thought it took away from the beauty of that moment as you just described it. When, after Humphrey Bogart has the speech, then he goes and like makes up another lie for Laszlo, and they have like a conversation that sort of just like clarifies just for him, like what has transpired.
Yeah.
And that feels like, from like a logical standpoint, like, hey, maybe we need to have this conversation if this were real, to like kind of just tidy this up a bit. But for the audience, it feels very clunky, and it feels just like removes the emotion from that beautiful moment we just had. Just let her get on the plane. Like, from a film standpoint, it felt unnecessary to like, okay, and then, you know, that time we were together, like, that didn't mean anything, and she lied about some other stuff. You know, like, it just felt like, why? Just let the beautiful moment play out in real time. Don't over-explain it. Maybe I'm being nitpicky. It just felt like too much, and it took me emotionally out of the scene. A little bit.
Yeah, that's weird. I think that's nitpicky. I think the purpose is obviously to continue to show how noble Rick is being in that moment, where he's trying to alleviate, like, preemptively any concerns or future thoughts that Laszlo might have about, like, hey, what exactly happened between you guys? Like, hey, this is what happened, just real short, and she came to try to help you, and that's why we just want you to know. It was all pretend. Like, he's just trying to be the bigger man.
I get the point of it, but I just feel like that point has been made to the audience. It feels like it's just only for him, which the movie, he's not a real person. Like, I can suspend my disbelief and not, like, I don't need that as, like, an audience member. You know, I really like the part of the film when he's about to sneak out for the night, but he goes to Ingrid. He says,
when I was in a concentration camp, were you lonely in Paris?
Yes, Victor, I was.
I know how it is to be lonely.
You were lonely, right? Like, I get
it.
We both know what it is,
yeah,
but we're just not saying it. But I'll give you the chance if you want to, but I'm okay with it. I was lonely too. Like, there was enough spoken but unspoken, and that, like, sort of gray area, and, like, I really liked that feel. I liked being in that position. Like, we all know what we're talking about, but we don't need to talk about it, but you know, like, I just felt like that should have been that ending as well. Like, just kind of let it live.
Yeah.
Is my 2 cents.
All right, I can see it. And it never has stuck out to me too much, but I can acknowledge your point. I can acknowledge that you just spoke.
Perfect.
Words were said.
Words were said. Things were said. And here's my other complaint. Again, at the end, Humphrey Bogart kills a Nazi.
Yeah, like the major.
A high-ranking Nazi. And these two just walk off into the sunset together. Like, how are there no ramifications? Like, how is there no... It's like everything's gonna be fine with these two. He just held you at gunpoint for the last 15 minutes. Like, that felt very unclear of how like this could be so tidy with how messy it got at the end.
Yeah.
And I get why you want it that way, because you want to feel good for this guy who just made this sacrifice. Like he's gonna be okay too.
Yeah.
And he's got his friend at least. But it doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, yeah, I'll meet you halfway or the quarter of the way there, which is I feel like the end all of a sudden is just on the gas, where it's like most things take their time to really be paced out and built up. And then that last 15 minutes when things are happening that are really consequential, it's just flying through that stuff. And so that's maybe my one criticism. But what you're saying, like, the part that's the least believable is that major would rush to that airfield and not have underlings with him. Like that part's the hardest.
He wouldn't go by himself.
Like I know he calls and says, have the police, but he's calling the French people and he's saying, have a gang of police meet me there. And the idea is obviously that everyone hates the Nazis, including all of those French people, because the Nazis are invading their territories too. So they are obligatingly helping them to just in case they win so that they can stay in their good graces. But they all hate them. So that's why there's like even an understanding of like, hey, I'm the captain. This guy's been shot. Go find somebody who did it. Go round up the usual
to pin
suspects.
It on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and so all those guys are into it because they're like, yeah, fuck the Nazis. You know, we don't like them either.
I guess that's fair.
So that's why it works. But if anything, so the details, the specifics don't bother me, but the quickness of the execution at the end always is like, oh, wait, it's over? Like it's just like boom, 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 it's over.
Yeah, and then it just ends. Those are my two tiny criticisms of an all-time classic from an absolute nobody, so enjoy.
I think it's wild that this film was made like in the midst of World War I. You know, like it's about World War I, it's about Nazi Germany like invading and expanding across Europe. But it's like that's like the threat is still happening when people are going to the theater to see this.
When America entered World War II, the entire country mobilized, and Hollywood was no exception. The movies became more patriotic with war themes and escapist themes.
Like that's crazy that was so topical. You know, like I can't think of an example like that where it's like, oh, 9/11 happens and then a year later there's a movie, you know, about us being in Afghanistan or whatever.
Yeah.
Like that is just like crazy topicality for, like I can't imagine what it would have felt like to go to a theater and watch this movie and when Pearl Harbor just happened a year ago and you're watching the thing and your half your family's out fighting this war in Germany and Japan. You know, it's nuts. It's nuts.
Yeah, you're right.
I was reading about the different cuts that they made to this film to be able to put it internationally. And like there was a version they released in Germany where they removed all Nazis. And so I'm like, what the fuck was that movie? Like what was that story like? Like it said, the little blurb I read was like, it's like, oh yeah, Laszlo wasn't a revolutionary, he was a scientist. And, you know, like they wasn't against the Nazis, he was just trying to get away from Europe for some other reason. You're just like, what bullshit hour-long version of Casablanca did Germans watch in the 40s and 50s that were probably like, this is the movie everyone's making such a big deal about?
I think they really liked it.
It's like just all dubbed badly in German. He's like, Laszlo's like, I love the Nazis. Like Hitler is a genius. Like, oh, Jesus. Nobody clip that off and make that a meme.
Yeah, Hitler's a genius is definitely going somewhere.
I love the Nazis. Hitler is a genius.
I've made a terrible mistake.
Yeah.
So I really enjoy the cinematography as a whole, but two thoughts as a part of that are, one, while I, like most people I think in my generation and certainly younger, always kind of dread watching a black and white movie, The really beautiful thing about black and white films that I'm only really starting to appreciate as I get a little older is the way that it displays the lighting in a way, like almost better than a color film will, because that's all you see. It's just shades of gray.
Is the thing you have. Yeah.
Yeah. So you really get to see the effort that's and the intention that's being put into the way scenes are lit, and that's one of the reasons too that Citizen Kane is so beautiful and wonderful. But as a part of that too, in this one, like the choice to always have that searchlight going from the tower is so brilliant and so beautiful that it makes for beautiful visuals, you know, that casts all these interesting shadows around this place and casts shadows behind them and silhouettes and all that stuff. B, it adds to the tension. It helps build the tension. There's always a searchlight moving around. And then C, it's a great metaphor for people searching, people seeking. Like it's checking so many boxes as just like that one choice. And I was just like, holy shit, this is brilliant. I want to rip this off and I want to put it in a movie that I make. It's so smart and beautiful.
I couldn't agree more. The cinematography, I think, is excellent. I wanted to talk about it. A shot that really stood out to me was when he goes to the safe early on in the film, and it's just a shadow of him. Yeah. Just like.
So you see the other guy in the shot?
You see the other guy talking. Yeah, you see the inspector or whatever talking. And you know, Humphrey Bogart goes off to a safe, opens the safe, comes back. Then they both come back into the room. Like it's interestingly like directed, and the cinematography and the lighting is just awesome and just fun. It's fun perspective. Yeah. When that could have been a very easy two-shot. Yeah. You know, just like that's creativity. I love seeing all of the textures. I wrote down a handful of examples of sort of just like contrasty textures because it's in black and white. One that really stuck out to me is the fireplace in one of the romantic scenes. Like you can see the flicker of the light sort of just dancing over them, over the couch, behind them. In the club, you always see like leaves, the shadow of leaves, and just like giving you just texture. One of my favorite times is another one that I just remembered. It was just something about effort. Like it didn't have to be there. They're in the office when Laszlo comes in, and they're like really threatening him, sort of like midway through the movie. And when he leaves the office, the door opens up, and there's light spills, shadowy light of through the blinds. Mm-hmm. Just hit the door, and as they pass through the door, it just ripples off them very quickly. And how easy, it's a second, it's 2 seconds, but how easy could that just not have been there? For them not to think about that, not to put that effort in. No one would have known. I would have never known. You would have, one, you just move on to, it cuts right after that. Yeah. But the fact that like when that door opens, there's gonna be some nice reflection that the light pulls in, like it's beautiful. Yeah. To put that level of detail into it, like I see effort and I just appreciate it more than these people know. Yeah. Beautiful from top to bottom. One best writing, best adapted screenplay, one best director, one best picture. Rightfully so, probably. I don't know the category, the field, I should say, but it was correct. Yeah. What else? Anything else? The only thing I also wanted to touch on is Humphrey Bogart. I think this is a great character. Yes. Like wanna just state it. I think it's one of the best characters I think I've seen. He just plays it perfectly. And I don't know, I don't know if it's like him or if it's just the screenplay that he's sort of bringing to life. The writing is really sharp, as we talked about before. So I don't know if it's his or maybe it's a combination of both, but like this character is like super cool, a little bit like edgy, but sincere, like has a good soft heart, but not like overly mushy. Like he's got a drinking problem. Like he's got a drinking hobby. All right. He's got like he's got this. He's like this perfect amalgamation. I feel like of just like interest, cool, soft and sweet, hard and rugged. Like he's handsome. He's got a great inflection, like the classic Bogart inflection. Like it's just all working. And I love it. And I just think this character is just one that you can really root for.
Yeah.
Just like I want him to work it out somehow. I want him to do well. He deserves it.
Yeah.
Because I just like him, and he's just, I don't know. There's like a visceral reaction for me for this character. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I like any character where people repeatedly say stuff to him about like, oh, well, so-and-so's gonna die. And he goes, what of it? he says what of it like 2 or 3 times, like, oh, everything bad's gonna happen. What of it? Oh, well, I guess if you put it that way.
I guess it's not that big of a deal after all.
Yeah. I agree. I think he's great. I think Ingrid Bergman's character, Ilsa, is also like, it's just as much her movie, even though she doesn't come into it for 25 or 30 minutes. Like they all have a full, you get an understanding, I feel like, of each of these characters for the most part. You're invested in each of them down to, I don't know, the 10th main character. You know what I mean? Like everybody you have some sense of, and you're like following their story and the way they react to things and all that.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing that will be really, I might regret saying, and it will go really against character for myself. But I just had the thought, and it would have to be under so many different kinds of specific conditions. Like not just like, oh, someone should do this. But there's a part of me that if done correctly, meaning if I did it, I wouldn't be totally against watching a remake. And I know that's blasphemy. So I admit that I'm stupid and incorrect. And I hate all sorts of remakes, basically across the board.
But tell me why. Why?
Because
why do you feel this way?
This film is such a good story, because everything is great, right? Everything's great. Except for it is really dated. And so if you had, like the production itself is dated. Like, so if you could tell this story and actually go, like, I'm not saying like, oh, get anybody to do it, so then the whole thing's CGI and they're in a green screen. No. If you're gonna go to Morocco, like for this hypothetical, imagine that someone that gave a shit is making this movie.
It's like
so you like, oh no, we went to Morocco, we're on location, we're telling this story with maybe a little more visual detail to some of the surroundings, and just, I would be interested to see, it would only be a handful of directors I would want to see try it, but what someone did with a very specific visual vision, like whether it was Paul Thomas Anderson or David Fincher or any of like my favorite guys, like I'd just be curious what that would look like. Not because it needs it, not because the world is lacking and this movie is somehow not good enough as it is. I'd just be curious to see what like a modern day filmmaking genius would do with this.
From the standpoint of, I want more films like this made, because not everything needs to be action or horror. So in that regard, yes, and I'd want, hopefully it would be successful and it would garner people to go back to the theaters to see this type of movie. So in that regard, yes. I'm going to ask you more questions about this, because before I get on board or not, I have to fully understand your vision.
Yes.
But you'd want it to be like a hard like remake, like, I don't want to say shot for shot, that's too extreme, but
no, not shot for shot.
You know what I'm saying? Like you want the same story. You don't want any tweak, like, or do you want creative license to sort of update it a little bit?
One of these people that I entrust, including, it's 3 people. It's Paul Thomas Anderson, Dave Fincher, and myself. I want to see one of the 3 of us. No, but I don't know. I haven't thought that far into it. I lean more towards a more accurate, faithful retelling with just upgraded technology, upgraded visuals. I lean more towards that. Definitely not like a shot-for-shot situation, because that's stupid. Like you need to bring something new to it to kind of breathe new life into it.
But you want this story, no creative license.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a little creative license, but...
Yeah, I think I would rather go the other way. I think it's interesting. I think I'd rather go the other way, where I'd rather someone take this story as inspiration, is kind of what I'd rather... Because if you're going to go so closely to the source material, and I think this movie is so great, then why? Fuck it, I have this movie. Then don't
I
do
agree.
it.
I will always agree with that. Full stop.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.
So that's why I'm not advocating for it, because I say this and now fucking Netflix is gonna do it, and it's gonna star
Kevin Hart.